Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is another video, another pattern making video, and in this video we're going to be making an asymmetric neckline. When drafting an asymmetric neckline pattern, you're going to be making use of two of everything. So that means you're going to have two back patterns, you're going to have your full front pattern. So the first thing you're doing, or the first thing I did here, was trace out my front and my back pattern. So I traced out my front pattern on fold, and now I'm just tracing out my back pattern, and I'm cutting two pattern pieces for the back. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the front pattern. So I'm just drawing out the lines that I had traced out from my basic bodies. Remember, I said that when you're working with an asymmetrical pattern, you have two pattern pieces of each side. So you have two of the front, two of the back. Once you're through with that, the next thing you do is decide what part of your asymmetric neckline is going to have a shoulder, is going to be open, is not going to have a shoulder. So all that is dependent on the style. For the style that I have chosen in this video, there's going to be a large hole on one side of the bodice, and that is the part I marked open. Next, you tighten your under bust. This enables your dress to have a better fit, and even in some special cases, you don't need to put on a bra underneath. So all you just have to do is mark out your under bust line and take out the excesses on both sides of your dart. Also in this video, I decided to make two different darts on my front bodice. The princess dart on the parts where there's a large shoulder, and then the panel dart on the part where there's a hole on the bodice. I'm also tightening my shoulders on both sides so that the neckline does not gape on any part of the bodice. next we're ready to draw our neckline. So the first thing you do is mark the width of your shoulder. Here I decided, just according to the style, to use 1.5 inch on my shoulder slant, and then from there I'm going to draw my hole, the open bit on my asymmetric neckline. So I'm just using a pencil to just sketch out what I want the neckline to look like. Now in hindsight, the changes I would make to this pattern after sewing it is making the space, first of all making the shoulder slant a little bit wider, and then making the space between the neckline, that part I'm erasing, a little bit wider so as to give me a clear finish. I'll explain it better when I am sewing, because that was where I encountered some issues. Yeah. So as usual, depending on the style, you draw your neckline as desired. Now because the front and the back of my armhole on one side is not going to have a sleeve attached to it, I had to add a little bit extra up to meet the side front so that the bodice is not too exposed. There you have it, the hole or the open bit is there, and then you are just cutting out all that bit. Now also another thing to note is you can also create little dots along the open space just so that the neckline again does not gape. Eventually what I noticed when I was sewing this was that the neckline gaped a bit, so I was like, okay, if I'm redoing this pattern again, I'll make sure that I just create little dots along the neckline so it sticks firm to my body. Now all you just have to do next is just add your seam allowance. So the seam allowance here is 0.5 inch all the way around, at the armhole, at the side front, at the neckline, and along the shoulder and in between the dots. So all I'm doing now is labeling my pattern and putting necessary instructions. Now when you're sewing an asymmetric neckline, you have to take note of how you place your pattern. I repeat myself, you have to take note of how you place your pattern. For your front piece, you are going to have 3 pattern pieces: the first side front piece, the center front piece, and the second side front piece. And then depending on how you place it, if you're placing it right side up, you put the instructions down. If you're placing it wrong side up, you put the instructions down. And you have to note that whatever you start with is what you continue with, because if you place one piece right side up and place the second piece on the wrong side, what you're going to have is confusion on both sides, or confusion on all sides. And that's when you realize that, okay, the part of the shoulder in the front is matching with the part that has no shoulder for the back, and then you have to recut the piece. So you always have to make sure that you know the placement of your pattern. It is very vital and very important. Next, before cutting out the front piece, we're going to place the back pattern just by the side seams. You can place it at the shoulder or at the side seams, so we can know the placement of each pattern piece. So all you're just doing is placing your back pattern at the side front of your front pattern. Just place them side by side, or you can place them shoulder by shoulder, but I just decided to do side by side so you can know, okay, what part has the full shoulder and what part should you not put a shoulder on. Once I'm done with that, all I'm just doing is labeling my pattern piece. Remember, I mentioned it is very important for you to label your pattern piece correctly. Now, because this is an asymmetric neckline, I have 3 pattern pieces for my front, unlike when you have your regular neckline and you have 2 pieces and then you have cut 2. But for this is 3 pieces and you're cutting 1 of each. Don't forget, you're cutting 1, not 2, and always make sure you know your placement. Now we can proceed to the back. So I'm working on the first part, the part that has like the hole for the front, now for the back too. So the first thing I'm doing is just marking the width of the shoulder. Next, I'm going to take out my back dart. Now this is not compulsory. You can decide to have a dart at your back, either a princess dart, a panel dart, or a regular dart, but I just decided to just take it out for this video. So next, I want to draw the part that has the opening for the back. So all you're just doing is just making a sketch of what you want your back to look like. This is what I started with, and then eventually I decided to spice it up a bit. So all you just need to do is just make sure your shoulder matches and your underarm point matches too. So I decided, okay, let's try a different neckline and put like a space too at the back, and all I just did was draw a straight line and then just curve it into the arm hole. Working on the part that has the full shoulder, as usual, make sure that your shoulder point matches that for the front as that for the back. So all I'm just doing is marking my shoulder points, and next I'm going to draw the neckline. Now usually I have a basic neckline at the back for this, just to give the dress a little bit of support at the back, but I decided to change my neckline and have like a v-neck, just to try it out. So all I'm just doing is drawing my v-neck. just at a glance, this is what your back pattern is going to look like when you're done. You have the v-neck and the open point, and then when you're done cross-checking, making sure everything matches, all you just have to do is add your seam allowance round. So don't forget 0.5 inch seam allowance all round, except at the center back where you have your 1 inch zipper allowance, and then you're done with your pattern. And as usual, because this is an asymmetric neckline, you are just cutting one piece of each back pattern, and then you're laying it the same way you laid your front. So if you laid your front pattern right side up, you have to make sure you lay your back pattern right side up. If not, you're going to end up confused. That is all you're through with your pattern. So all I'm just doing is laying out the pattern piece so you can see them, see the front, see the back. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment, please, so that I can know what type of content you want me to give you. Thank you. Have a great day wherever you are. Bye.